Oh, did you not understand it? Okay. Okay. We can talk about it. Do you want terms?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so far it looks good. Those are advanced. We can talk about some other ones too. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's, oh, look at this. Is that, oh, there's a big termination in there. There's a, and then it happens on the next page.
Okay.
Maddie, would you hand that back to Marty? Okay. We'll talk about number 2 in just a moment. First, I want to put a couple things up here that have to do with the particular political systems that each country, the United States and also the Soviet Union, were trying to put into effect or trying to spread over to other countries. So we'll just make a little note down here. Of course, we know that these two countries had been allies in World War II. And so now, just a few short years later after the war, now they're at odds again. basically over political difference of opinion for political system, but there were also some underhanded things that each country had done as well, so we'll talk about those. So what kind of political system do we have in the United States? Just to review a little bit. Holly?
A democracy.
Yeah. Okay, and what exactly does that mean, to have a democracy? How would you describe it, Olivia?
The people have a say in the government.
Put down individuals. So in terms of politics, a democracy means that, in theory, the people have a say and get to have a say in who they elect to be president, who they elect to be members of Congress, who they elect for their local government, mayor, and things like that. And then on top of this, we'll also add the other word, capitalism as well. And capitalism refers more to our economy. So under a capitalist society, individuals have the right to own businesses, have the right to own land, have the right to compete in the job market freely. And so this is what our country is based on. This is what we've tried to always carry out within the history of the U.S. What about then for the Soviet Union? How did their political system differ? Excuse me. What was it called, and how does it differ from democracy? What's it called? We'll start with that. Maddie? Yeah, communism. Okay. And who can describe a communism in its simplistic terms? What's the goal of communism? Maddie?
Well, it's like there's one leader usually, and it's like they equally, or the theory is to equally divide like everything, again, among the people. So nobody has like more money than the other person.
Okay, so the idea with communism is that a working class, the middle class of people, rises up and they kind of become the most powerful. In a communistic country, everything is owned by the government, by the state, they call it. And so, since everything is owned by the state, people's actions, people's property, really people's jobs to an extent, then we can consider it to be a totalitarian society because the government has complete control over the people. And this is typically what happens in a communist country. So again, like we said before, communism tends to be a political theory that in theory or ideally, it will give an equal amount, an equal share of things to all people. But it typically doesn't work out that way because it's human nature that one person or a group of people will still rise above the rest. So it typically creates a lot of turmoil wherever it's installed. So anyway, the United States, we feel like our system is best, and so we're trying to teach other countries how to rebuild after the war, and we're saying, why don't you guys try out a democratic system and see if it works for you, it works well for us. And also the Soviet Union is trying to do the same thing with communism. They feel like it's the best way to go about things. So we clash for those reasons as well. So a couple of things then that happened. After World War II, the Soviet Union gets, usually after wartime, the winning countries are able to take control of the losing countries or just of specific parts of lands. They're divvied up between the winning countries. So the Soviet Union is able to take control of some Eastern European countries, like Yugoslavia, for example. So they have reign over those countries. But the United States wants to block Soviet influence. They don't want the Soviets to make any more countries communist over in Europe. Why does the United States even care about this, do you think? Holly?
Like, well, obviously in the past there hasn't been a good outcome from the totalitarianism, so they want to prevent like another war.
Yeah. They're worried that even though now we're dealing with communism instead of fascism, they're all kind of fall under the same umbrella of totalitarian government. So we're worried that we're going to get into the same position we were with Germany taking over countries as well, and also with Japan. So we're a little bit worried about this. Also, we have market trades with some of these other countries, and so we know that if they turn communist, they might not be able to trade with us anymore. They might not be able to do business with us anymore. Excuse me. So, you know, we're in it for our own reasons as well. So then we have what's called this Cold War going on, and as you were able to tell in the reading. What's the difference between a Cold War as opposed to a regular war, like World War II or World War I? Aaron?
With the Cold War, I believe sometimes things don't happen as often, like it's slower than World War II and World War I were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, slower in a sense that there's no direct fighting or declaration of war at this point, right? So we can call it cold in the sense that it's mostly just a war of ideas, and we have really, really strong tension between several different countries. And both the United States and the Soviets thought that we had declared war on each other, kind of indirectly, even though we hadn't really. So that was kind of entertaining as well. So anyway, so this is kind of going on, and this will continue to go on for a number of years. So something else that the United States does, they come up with the Truman Doctrine, of course named after Harry S. Truman, who's president during this time. And so the Truman Doctrine is just a paper that authorizes government money from the United States to go over and help prevent the spread of communism. So we're trying to go over and help other countries. Then we come up with the Marshall Plan, another document that helps out Europe when it's trying to rebuild after the war, and we also send over a lot of goods for people in Europe, again to try to stabilize or to try to keep our markets open over there so that we continue to buy and sell with Europe. Okay, so then there's the issue of Germany then. The country of Germany, obviously Germany lost during World War II, and so what happened was that the Allies won a portion of Germany, the western half basically, and the Soviet Union won the eastern half, so we just kind of split it down the middle to try to be fair. Well, the problem with this is that we both really want the whole thing. The Soviets kind of want to take over Germany and turn them into a communist society. They want to keep Germany weak because they're bitter, right? Germany has gone to war with them twice now in the last 30 years. And if you remember from World War I, the Soviet Union lost the most people in that war. So they're feeling still very angry with Germany. They don't want to let Germany go. Meanwhile, the United States wants to try to reunify Germany, let it get back up on its feet. They feel like Germany was once a very powerful country, and it would really help to stabilize all of Europe if Germany were back in its original state, and perhaps become a democracy as well. Then, within Germany, Berlin, which is one of the largest cities, and I think it might be the largest city actually in Germany, was also divided. up into zones, half of which the Allies owned, half of which the Soviets owned. And so the Soviets decide to try to take over all of Berlin. And then we decide to come in and we send supplies into Berlin so that the people there, you know, don't starve, basically. So it's just another conflict over who's going to take over which land, who's going to have power and authority over there, and all kinds of stuff. So at this point, again, we haven't sent in military to actually fight against the Soviets, and they have not done so either. But we're in a war in the sense of this strong disagreement that could turn into a hot war, right, a fighting war at some point. Okay, so let's talk about number 2 then, from the homework. It talks about specific United States actions and then specific Soviet actions that lead us into this feeling of tension, this Cold War. So I'll recreate this chart up here and we can put in some ideas. Okay. Some things that the United States did after World War II that would have ticked the Soviet Union off, basically, is what we're saying. What did we do to irritate each other? Aaron, what was one thing?
We wanted to reunite Germany while the Soviet Union wanted to keep it divided and weak.
Good. Okay, here's one difference already right off the bat. What else, Olivia?
We hid the atomic bomb from them.
Yeah. Even though we were allies with the Soviets during World War II, they had no idea that we were even making the atomic bomb at all. That just came out of the blue for them as well. And it would have been a little bit more startling, obviously, because they're over on the east with Japan, right? So they're much closer to where the atomic bombs were dropped. And so they probably felt just kind of betrayed that we didn't share this information with them. Good. What else? Holly?
We wanted to encourage democracy whereas they wanted to encourage communism.
Yeah.
The U.S. wanted to like help rebuild Europe and help fix what they like helped ruin, I guess.
Yeah.
But and the Soviets wanted to like make it even worse so they would gain power.
Yeah. Anything else that might have been different that you put on your chart? Okay, good. Then we have, you know, the very specific documents the United States crafted. So we could also put the Truman Doctrine over here in the Marshall Plan. And so, you know, both of these plans, this was their goal, basically, to help rebuild Europe in just specific ways. then, it asks a follow-up question, not on the right page, but, I think it says something to the effect of which country was more at fault or had a bigger influence on the start of the Cold War, and why? What do you, this is just an opinion question, of course. What do you think? Did anyone feel one way or the other about it? It's kind of one of those questions where it's hard to define, hard to pick a side.
Well, I took it as like more responsible as in like the terms of thinking of other countries instead of like, because the Soviet Union kind of was like, oh, communism, but they
Mhm.
weren't thinking logically, so
So,
that's how I took it.
that the Soviet Union was more like selfish, and it's how it wanted to approach going about in Europe, basically, rebuilding it or lack thereof, I guess. Okay, good, what else, Maddie?
It uses the word responsible, so I was thinking of it as like which country was like doing the better work, I guess.
Oh, okay, okay,
Instead
that's
of,
funny,
like-
you guys read
Yeah.
responsible
Yeah,
differently than
yeah.
I did. Okay, that's fine, we can go with it on that route too.
So, yeah, I said
Yeah.
the US, because they were trying to help like, rebuild what they like, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, I read that wrong.
So did I.
Right, okay, so that's the direct responsible on. Okay.
It's kind of vague.
It's
too.
vague,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right,
They
you
don't
could,
say
I thought they meant responsible in starting the Cold War, okay, so never mind. So yes, if we wanna go with responsible in traditional terms, in a positive way, then because the United States had other countries' interests in mind, as well as our own, we probably would go with the United States there, that makes more sense. Okay, good. Any other thoughts or questions about the homework or anything? All right. Okay, who has heard of the Berlin Wall before? Okay, have you ever seen footage of it being taken down? Just to give you an idea, this is the wall that divided Berlin in half, so a whole city, but you couldn't go from one side to the other, like you had to remain on the side in which you lived whenever they built the wall. And then, I think it was in 1989, not until 1989, did the Berlin Wall come down. And that must have been President Reagan who was in office, yeah. So like 40 years later, so imagine if there were a wall running down the center of Fort Wayne. Let's say it like runs down Clinton Street and divides the entire city into two. How would that affect your life? Some of you couldn't come to school, right, because it would be on the other side. Some of you probably couldn't get to your church anymore, or to your family's homes, right? I mean, this is what these people were dealing with. And the conditions on East Berlin were much more dire, because that was the part that was being ruled by the Soviet at that point. And they were not really trying to help out with the poor conditions, like you had mentioned before. So, a very, very odd thing, very odd thing. Okay. All right, so tomorrow we have current events. And then for Monday, let's see, for Monday we'll read section 2 of chapter 18. And let's see, questions here. Let's do assessment 1 and 3. So I'll write this up on the board here. So due Monday, chapter 18, section 2, assessment 1 and 3. Okay, and I should have your test grades online for you this afternoon. We'll do this during study hall today, so you can get on Teacher Use after school and take a look. after you can begin to work on the home